friends. Line that up. How's everybody today? I'm back. Yeah, sorry it's been a while, but I decided I could have some time today to read to y'all from the Bible, so I'm gonna do that. We're gonna start on Mount Sinai and learn about everything that happened up on the mountain and getting the 10 Commandments and stuff, so that's exciting. Hope everybody's doing well. I need to get on here more because I miss all my friends and I miss being on here and I miss talking. I love doing this. I have been working on my YouTube stuff too, though. My animations. I am currently in the middle of making one of my animations, but it's taking longer than I thought. Because, life gets crazy sometimes and then you have to deal with life and you're not always able to get on here, but I really enjoy doing this and I hope I can do it more. And yeah, glad everyone could show up and read along with me today. We're gonna start on Exodus 19, which is on Mount Sinai. So if you are watching and you would like to join us, we're gonna start on Exodus 19 in the Bible. I'm using, if you guys want to know, I'm using the NIV version. I started out, when I first started doing this, I did like the Jewish version, but there were a lot of words and stuff that I was struggling with, so I decided to switch it over to the NIV because I feel like it's more clearly stated in a way that I can understand it. I definitely struggle with that sometimes, and I struggle with reading like weird words, and I don't always get them correct, so I'm trying my best. But, you gotta do what you gotta do. So right now I am just gonna do the NIV version, so if you guys want to read along in the same version or a different version, that's fine. But I know some people like to read along in the same version because then it's easier for them to understand and like know where you're at, especially if they like get lost and stuff. Excuse me, sorry, just drinking soda over here. I had a wonderful Subway sandwich for lunch, so all right, so we're gonna start on Exodus 19 and then we'll go to 20. And if you have any questions or anything you want to say in the chat, you totally are welcome to do that. I want this to be not just me reading and you listening. Like, I want it to be more interactive. And I know, like, it's harder when I stream during the day because, that's the best time for me to stream because no one else is home. And it's quiet and I can actually, get my work done here. But, people can always come on later too. And, feel free to leave comments below on my YouTube. And, just, I really want this to be more of a dialogue and not just me reading you the Bible. Although this has been interesting for me too, because I feel like I've never, actually sat down and read the Bible. So this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, because when I was a Christian, like, I would sit down and read it sometimes, but it was more like, oh, I'll just go read this, flip to this verse and read it or whatever. It wasn't like getting too deep into it. And, when you're in church, they kind of just tell you what the verse is saying, and you just believe them because that's pretty much what you're used to, especially when you're raised in it like I was, where it's like, oh, the pastor has more knowledge about this stuff because, he either studied the Bible or he went to seminary school, and so he knows where, all this stuff comes from and the backstories and how it's like backed up. And I don't need to know all that stuff. I just have to trust that person in front of me or that pastor that is telling me these things to be true. And I don't know, I think reading the Bible helps you see that not everything can be taken literally, and not everything can be as clear cut as they will tell you it is in church. And that's a big thing that led to my deconversion, is I thought everything was very clear cut and had very good evidence to back it up. But I did not have, I hadn't studied it. I just trusted the people that I thought had studied it to know what they were saying and telling me, like, this is true because of this. And yeah, it's an interesting place to be in. Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyways, but yeah, just thought I would give my 2 cents on that. Let's read about Mount Sinai. On the first day of the 3rd month after Israel left Egypt, on that very day they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him from the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be, for me, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people, and set before them all the words that the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people responded together, "We will do everything the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, so the people will hear me speaking with you, and will always put trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. And the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready by the 3rd day. Because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, 'Be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain is to be put to death. They are to be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on them. Whether people or animals, they shall not be permitted to live. Only when the ram's horn sounds a long blast may they approach the mountain.' After Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, 'Prepare yourselves for the 3rd day. Abstain from sexual relations.' On the morning of the 3rd day, there was thunder and lightning, with a thick cloud over the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke, because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. And the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder. Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people, so they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them." Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up Mount Sinai, because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy." The Lord replied, Go down and bring Aaron up with you. But the priests and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them." So Moses went down to the people and told them the 10 Commandments. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourselves an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of their parents to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commands. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, or your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your town. For the 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in it, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the people saw the thunder and lightning, and heard the trumpet, and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance, and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so the fear of God will be with you and keep you from sinning." The people remained at a distance, while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites this: You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any other gods alongside me. Do not make for yourself God of silver or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and goats and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and bless you. If you can make an altar of stone for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go up to my altar on steps, lest your nakedness will be exposed on it. These are the laws you are to set forth before them." So this is interesting because we have those. It's like the first 10 commandments, but I know later there's another one. I think after he comes back down from. Oh, we get to get into all the fun stuff next. Next, we get to learn about all the, other commands and things that they are going to get from God, and we get to learn about how they set up the tabernacle and all the fun things that go into the tabernacle that God wants. So that should be interesting. What did I just... It is interesting because growing up, like... Oh, number 12. So, honor your father and your mother so you may live long in the land the Lord your God has given you. I feel like I never heard that verse that way. I feel like growing up they always just said honor your mother and father so that you may live a long life. But I don't know. if that's just a different version of it, or they cut off the end of it when they were like teaching us in Sunday school. Because I was always taught like the whole reason you want to honor your father and mother was God's going to give you a long life if you're honoring to your parents. But this says that you will live a long life in the land that God gave to those people, which that completely changes that narrative that you're going to live a long life because you obeyed your parents. The way I see it is God's going to let you stay in the land he gave you only if you obey your parents. So I that was an interesting one to read because I feel like I was taught differently. And I don't know if the people who were teaching it like just had a different version of the Bible, or they just changed it for the kids' versions. I don't know. I'm going to have to get a kids' Bible now and figure out if they actually changed that or made it different somehow in a children's Bible. So that's very interesting to me because that changes a whole lot. You know, context is a big thing, and I think sometimes people, when it comes to like Bible verses, can take a lot of these out of context to make it fit into their version of what they think Christianity is. So that's an interesting thing that popped out at me today, was that it wasn't about living a long life, but it was about living a long life in the land God gave you. I don't know how you all feel about that. You can write in the comments below if you were taught that way too, or if, hey, normalizing atheism. I lost my train of thought. Oh, if you were taught like you will live a long life if you honor your parents, or you will live a long life if you honor your parents in the land God gave you. Because that just seems like a whole different way of saying that. And I don't know, maybe I'm just misinterpreting what I heard as a child, but that's always what my view was. So, yeah. I don't know what you guys also think about, you know, the other 10 commandments. I know, like, Aaron Ra is very... he has a whole thing about them and how they're, you know, not great. I'm gonna have to find that video and watch it again, because I think he did a good job on, you know, showing how ridiculous they are and how there were so many other things that God could have said that would have been better and made society better, as opposed to, you know, a lot of them being about the God of the Bible and not so much about, you know, being loving and respectful to other people. And, you know, the whole coveting one, too, it goes into the whole fact that, like, women were property. Like, don't covet your neighbor's wife. It wasn't because she was a person. It was because she belonged to a man, and if you take her away from that man, then you are committing sin against the man and committing, I don't know, I guess it could be seen as robbery. I don't know, but no, it's just interesting looking at those perspectives when you were raised in the church, as opposed to leaving the church and realizing, like, these are not the same perspectives that, you know, people outside the church see these things as. And, you know, another thing that goes back to that is, like, I've talked to so many men in the church when I was still in the church that were like, I don't understand why women were treated so badly. I don't understand why they didn't act like they were human beings. And it's like, they can't wrap their minds around the fact that, like, that was the Israelites' culture was very much where women were treated as property and they weren't people. And they don't understand that. I think especially in the Christian view of things, because I know growing up, like, they always talked about how, you know, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And that's how a lot of the men in the church act, is like they want to love their wives the way that Christ loved the church. They want to respect them and treat them decently like people. But at the same time, they still have that idea of patriarchy where they are the head, and if it, you know, if a decision is made, it's not always as equal as people think it is, because in the end, a lot of people are forced to, do what their husband wants because their husband is the head of the household, when, there's no reason that we shouldn't be equal. But it's just ingrained into that whole culture. And I know how that is, because like I was raised in that culture where it was very much, you need to grow up, you need to get married, you need to obey your husband, you need to, respect his decisions, and because, he's closer to God than you are because you're a woman. And yeah, I totally bought into that whole culture. And I bought into purity culture that went right along with that too, where it was like my life was not my own. And I was just being raised to be a wife and a mother, and I don't know, do what the Bible said to do, be a wife and a mom and stay home and take care of your kids, and let your husband be the breadwinner and all that. And I don't know. I think it's definitely played a big role in where I am at now in my life and how I see things very differently from that. But it's because of my Christian upbringing that, since I am going through a difficult time right now with all that I see how dangerous it is. It's very dangerous for women, and it puts women in a place where they can't escape if they need to escape. And yeah, I understand now, being in the place I'm at in my life, and just realizing, like, I gave too much power to what Christianity wanted in my life, and I gave too much power to, the man I loved and cared about. And because of that, I now have to deal with things I don't want to deal with. But I know in the end, like, I don't know, maybe I'll be better for it, and maybe I'll be able to stand on my own 2 feet for once instead of relying on other people. Because my whole life I was completely taught to rely on everyone else. I was taught to rely on my husband, I was taught to rely on my church, taught to rely on, this whole system that I was raised in. And being out of the church for 4 years, it's still very much ingrained in me, even though I don't agree with it now, and I don't think it's right. And, things need to change for people to understand, like, it puts people in these bad positions. Hey, BJ! But yeah, it puts, especially women, it puts women in bad positions that they can't get out of. And I'm very grateful that I live in a time where, there are people who can help with those things now, and there are protections around women that can help them when they're in those situations. But just thinking back on the past and how many women were just, they were so reliant on other people because they were taught that's how life works. And if you rely on other people and you rely on God, like, your life's gonna be. Yeah, it's been this last few years have been very hard. But I don't know. I guess for me, I don't know where my future is going to go right now, but I think being an atheist now and being able to step back from those toxic environments and realizing that it's not healthy to be in those environments, it's going to help me grow and be a more self-sustaining person, I think. So, yeah. It's my 2 cents on women being property and, the damage the church has done for that. Yeah. Well, and I went to a church where they didn't even, like, they were very against women even being in the pulpit. Like, women can't be pastors. They just can't be. Because that's not what the Bible says, so. And, I have friends who are women pastors now, and they left that church and went to other churches in order to do what they thought they were called to do. So, I mean, I see the church is changing in a lot of ways, but I still think we have a long way to go to help people. Anybody who's in any type of situation, whether you're leaving your faith or, leaving a relationship or, starting over with nothing or whatever you have to go through. Like, I think having a community is super important for that. And I think in the past that was a huge part of the church, is that you had that community around you. And now online, like, I realized that I don't have to be in a faith community in order to find that. I have so many people on these channels that I do, and so many people on other people's channels. It's like we know each other to a point where we can talk and we can be real with each other and we can help each other and support each other in whatever way is necessary. And that is something I am super grateful for, because I know, like, I thought the hardest thing in my life was leaving the church, and now I know, like, there are other things that can happen in life that are way worse sometimes. So you just have to keep trucking, but don't do it on your own. And I think that's part of my issue too, is I tried for a long time to do things on my own. Oh my god, that's not great. No thank you. Yeah. Jeez, people are crazy, man. Yeah, so. Anyways, I'm not trying to be a downer here. I'm just thankful that I have a community on here, and that, other atheists can have a community on here too, because I think that is super important. And it's definitely, thanks Beach, I will keep on trucking. I just think it's important for everybody. And, I'm trying my best to help whoever needs help. And, it's not easy. There's so many things going on right now with COVID and everything else. And sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So, I hope everybody else is having a better time in life right now. I'm trying my best. Taking it one day at a time and living my life the way that I can. yeah, having people around, I think, is very helpful. I think if I didn't have this online community, it would be a lot more difficult to go through what I'm going through. And, having people there that are supporting me and, sneaking into my DMs and being like, are you okay? Just making sure I'm okay. And, it's a big deal. And, you might not think it's a big deal, but it's really helpful. And it's helpful to have people around you that you need in hard times. And it's the same for me. Like, I want to be there for people who are also going through hard times and who are also, struggling right now with whatever's happening. And that's a big part of why I'm a part of this community, is because, it's not just to help people leave the church. It's not just to help people be independent and find their own way in life. It's to be there for people and to love on people regardless of where they're at in life, and let them know they're not alone. And I think that's a huge thing for anybody. So, anyways, that was my spiel. I'm gonna try. I think I can. Not tomorrow. Probably try on Wednesday to do another stream. I can't tomorrow because I have other stuff I gotta do. But if you guys want to read the next part of Exodus tomorrow, or not tomorrow, probably Wednesday or Thursday, we can read 21, Exodus 21. So if you're not caught up, you can go back and read whatever parts of Exodus you missed, and then hopefully I will be here on either Wednesday or Thursday, and we can do awesome. Yeah, we just read Exodus. We just read about Mount Sinai, and we just read about the 10 Commandments. And so next we're going to be reading all about the other commandments that he gives, or what he wants the people to do. And then we get to learn all about the setting up of the tabernacle and all that fun stuff that goes in the tabernacle in order to please God. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. So hopefully Wednesday or Thursday. Tomorrow I am super busy with stuff, so but yeah, thank you all for coming. It's nice to see some faces on, well, not faces, but people I know talk to you and just stream on here and vent a little about my life and talk about some Bible verses. Yeah, so that's all I have. I'm glad you guys came and chatted for a bit, and hopefully I see you on Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah. Yep. Not allowed in there. That's for sure. Yeah, I always wondered about that. I always wondered, what Christians thought about, God saying that you can't go into his holy place if you're, disabled or blind, or, what do they think about that? Especially if, God's the one who created you. I mean, if he created you blind, or he created you in a way that you're disabled and there's nothing that you can do about it, you're not allowed to be in his presence. I don't know. I'll have to look more into that one, because that's definitely one I never quite understood. That I'm sure Christians just either ignore it or, make up something for it. I don't know. That's not one I'll have looked into, but, yeah. I mean, it's the same with women, though, too. We were only allowed into, the women's spot. Couldn't go any farther. Only the men could go into, the farther courts, and then only the priests could go into the Holy of Holies when they had the temple built, so it's really interesting. But yeah, they had a thing like where I live. I remember one summer they had um like a reenactment people come. Yeah, they had reenactment people come, but they reenacted like how the tabernacle was set up, and like they had like people dressed up like the priests and their garments, and like how everything was supposed to be set up in the desert. And that's when I was still a Christian, so I thought that was really cool. That's not great. Don't throw babies off of cliffs, please. Yeah, so they had that whole setup. I didn't go see it, but it looked interesting to me. And back then I was a Christian, so I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I want to see what those people did and why they set it up that way and why they did certain things in the tabernacle in the way that God supposedly told them. But I always thought that was interesting, especially since, like, growing up, like, in my family, my mom was like a super history person, so like we're the kind of people that always went to like Civil War reenactments and things like that, because she's from the South, so she very much likes that stuff. And yeah, I went to Civil War reenactments for like 2 or 3 years when I was a kid. And then I remember going to like Tennessee and Kentucky, and we went and looked at a bunch of like the battlefields and stuff. Because my mom really wanted us to go see all that stuff. So that was really interesting. But yeah, it's just reenacting the tabernacle is just an interesting idea, I guess. Oh yeah, they had one on YouTube. Yeah, and I always wondered like if the Ark of the Covenant like really did have, they claim there was like a glow on it when God was present. So I always wondered like if they just made that up, or if there was something else going on that they just didn't understand at the time because they didn't understand science. I always thought that was interesting too. But again, a lot of the things in the Bible, somebody could make up that they saw a glowing ball, or, maybe the priests were hallucinating. Like, I don't know. I was not there, but I always just found that really interesting too. Is like, oh yeah. I just thought that was. There's so many interesting things in the Bible, and you just have to wonder, like, when did certain things, yeah, it's all made up, like, did certain things actually happen, or, like Beach said, it's all made up, or, there were science things they didn't understand, like, I mean, they could be taking drugs and seeing things and thinking it was God, when it was really just chemicals messing with their heads. So it's always interesting to look into those things. Oh, Oregon. Just don't go. Don't go to the main places in Oregon, because that's where all the problems are. That's why I stay away from all those places that have the... That's interesting. I don't know much about Islam. I should look more into Islam too, because I feel like it's very similar to Christianity. But I've looked into like I don't know, I've looked into other religions. I mean, I took a whole religion course in um, college, so that was fun. We did have like a during that time we had an actual like I don't know what they call them, like a pastor of a Muslim church come in, and he just like taught us like the five pillars, and talked about his journey to Mecca and things he had done. But that's about as far as I think we got when it came to Islam. So I don't know as much about Islam as yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. Everyone keeps telling me I should read the Quran because I haven't read it and like I don't know what's in it. But I'm gonna read through the Bible first. Maybe we can do the Quran next. Or the Book of Mormon. I don't have my Book of Mormon anymore though. I loaned it to someone and they never gave it back, so I'm gonna have to get a new one if I want to read that. So I got that Book of Mormon on my Mormon's mission trip. If you haven't watched that video, you should go watch it. Mormon mission trip, Christians going to Utah trying to convert Mormons to Christianity in college. That was interesting. I just look back at some of the things I did as a Christian and just shake my head like, what in the world was I thinking? Why in the world did I think going to the Mormon temple and preaching to Mormons was gonna work? That's crazy, man. I mean, I honestly thought that, like, that's what's crazy about it. It's because I grew up in a neighborhood where there are a lot of, like, Mormons, and a lot of my friends were Mormons growing up, and like they always tried to get me to go to church and stuff, and my mom was like totally against it because she was like super Christian. And I don't know, I was obsessed with it for a while because all my friends were Mormon and I really wanted to like know what was actually happening and stuff. And I would get books from the library and just read about it, and yeah, and I honestly thought like, oh, this is like what God's training me for. Like, he wants me to go be a missionary to the Mormons. And I honestly believed that, especially after I went to Utah. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do with my life. And now I look back and go, what in the world was I thinking? Like, that would have never worked. It's like banging my head against a wall and getting nowhere. Because, like, I came too fast. I would never get anywhere with that, honestly. Most of the Mormons that we actually talked to, like when we were trying to convert them, they had, they were very similar to Christians, where they had a lot of things the church had told them backed up their stories and backed up what had actually happened, and they 100% believed it. So, like, I don't think we honestly converted anyone while we were there the whole time. And one of the kids at, like, BYU, it was really interesting talking to them because one of them was like, well, how do you guys know you have the truth when you have so many different denominations and different churches and they all believe different things, when Mormonism has, like, well, like, mainstream Mormonism has the same, core belief. And we came to the conclusion that it didn't really matter what denomination we were, because we were all Christian, and it all came back to the core belief that Jesus was God and he died on the cross and saved us. And, like, that was the most important thing. So it didn't really matter what other things we believed, because we were all from, like, different churches and different backgrounds and stuff. But, at the time I didn't really think about it, but, that was a good point. Like, there are so many different um just different ideas of what Christianity is and different ideas of what people think you need to know in order to go to heaven, you know? Like, some people believe you have to be baptized to go to heaven, and some people believe you just have to say the prayer, and some people believe that you have to say the prayer and do works, and some people... There's just so many different versions. So, yeah. I guess he made a good point there, and I was young, and I didn't see it, but I see it now. That is for sure. Yeah. I think that's all I have. I'm just over here talking about my life. Yeah. I don't have anything else more to say. But yeah, come back on Wednesday or Thursday, and hopefully I can do this again and we'll read Exodus 21. I don't know how far we'll read. I have to look at my list, because I have a list of things, but I'm so far behind anyway, because I'm not going to be... Yeah, that is something Mormons teach, is the burning in the chest. I never got that. But of course, I was raised Christian and was told, like, Mormonism was a cult, and they were just trying to, like, steal me away from the true church. Even though I was Protestant, which is not really, like, they broke off from Catholics, so it's like we were no different. But, you know, that is life, man. That is how people see things. Especially when you live in a bubble. Alright. Well, I have things I gotta go do. So, I hope you are all... Y'all had a good time. I don't know why some of y'all... I am not a southern person at all. Like... I live in the Pacific Northwest. I do not live in... I don't know. The other side of the country. So many were listed. Oh my goodness. We are the one true church. They all are. That's how you get universalism, man. Alright. Thank you for coming. I will take care, Beach. Thank you. And thank you all for hanging out with me today. This went longer than I thought, but it was fun. I got to chat with some people. I like you people. You're awesome. And I will see you all on Wednesday or Thursday. And hopefully you can come back and read along in the Bible with me. So, have a good day. Bye.